Hey folks, MasakoX here. With Gohan, there was a lot of potential to be had with this character going into Dragon Ball Z. He was naturally meant to be the person who Goku would pass the baton to lead the next generation of fighters. Only that never happened. Goku was holding onto that figurative baton with all of his strength and running off with it, leaving not only Gohan behind, but Goten and Trunks as well. How about we have it where Gohan genuinely gets to have the power that he deserved to have the title of potentially the legendary Super Saiyan, not Broly? Would this be a blessing and something that could work within the timeline of Dragon Ball Z? Perhaps, but we all know about Gohan's rage boosts at the best of times when he was just a regular character. The ones he has had here were rather bad to deal with and took all of Kami's vast knowledge of calming skills to ease the boy's brow. Would that remain in place as the boy gets older and the times get tougher? In the last part, it was very clear that Gohan's training was mostly comprised of him learning to control his temper and overall latent power instead of general strength training. But it had achieved some results which were reviewed as positive, as he, Goku and even Chi-Chi had been granted the gift of Yardratian training first and foremost, with the mother being able to use instant transmission at the end of it all. So really, there's no escaping your mum. This meditative training was not Goku's cup of tea exactly, but Gohan's view of it was critical. It was the natural evolution from Kami's initial practices, which had been enough at the time to stop Gohan exploding as a 5-year-old. This was naturally the next step to ensure it was less likely to happen as he ventured closer to adulthood. Even the likes of Poir and most of the Dragon team made gains in their own way, with the beauty of mind exercises to further expand their cerebral prowess and learning capabilities. Despite this though, our heroes still discover that Frieza is out there and is making his way to Earth to get his revenge along with his father, who is said to be even stronger than him. Where's the future boy that is meant to arrive at this exact point on Idiot Rock? Well, since Vegeta isn't around in the story, oh dear, you might want to brace yourself folks, because this is where we could easily diverge from the norm. As you might be able to tell, since there is no future boy coming to warn the group about the androids, the group are completely unaware of it. They are considering their recent and final win against Frieza as something of an immediate end to perils for the moment, for them as a whole. Because of this blissful ignorance, this means our heroes can take it easy somewhat in relation to the original timeline. Subsequently, 3 years then passed since our heroes had triumphed over Mecha Frieza and King Cold. The Z fighters have naturally grown accustomed to the peaceful times of now, taking regular trips to Yardrat for more casual times to check with Master Pibara, maybe for a top-up session with him as well. But this is more for ticking over purposes rather than going all out and in desperate search for new techniques and power gains at a really quick click. It had also been a very long time since Gohan's last major rage attack, him being able to keep a good hold on his emotions and thusly starting to understand them more. So this meant that everyone could genuinely relax a little bit around his company from an impending anger burst from Goku's kid. They had good reason to be buoyant right now. After all, they had stopped a major space threat, one of the biggest in the galaxy, that had been causing pain and suffering for billions for decades. Surely there couldn't be anything greater than that could threaten them right now. Yeah? Yes, of course, Goku hadn't given up on his training, since it was something he liked to do on a regular basis for fun, whether there was an enemy about or not. It was also helped by the fact that Chi-Chi had allowed him to have some rather healthy doses of exercise with his son, since it helped them both let off some steam and get some fresh air. In fact, sometimes she even participated in this herself. This meant some really good time for the Son family to bond with one another and understand one another, instead of Chi-Chi just foisting her beliefs on a Gohan who could probably do with less ramming of books down his throat. Other parties were benefiting from their time on Yardrat as well. Thanks to this training, Tenshinhan could finally build his spiritual dojo, the one that he had always wanted to make, something that was unique to him, a blend of Yardrat and the Crane School, used for positive affirmations rather than underhanded power plays like the disgraced Shen had been spouting for decades. Thanks to this variation of a theme, he was blessed to pass some of the techniques to Earthlings from Master Pibara, though it would take some time to find some rather fitting students from the nearby towns. The Dragon team had advanced so far from a regular fighter or humans that it would be extremely difficult to find candidates who could even light a candle near them, let alone hold one. But Tenshinhan didn't mind the challenge of finding them. It would make it all the more satisfying when he had. But one day, things started to seem less fine. At Kame House, Krillin was idly watching television, flicking through the channels for something to watch after a busy day of firing Kamehamehas into the ocean over and over, when he spotted something bad happening in North City. This concerning him. There had been electrical outages all stemming from a specific source which didn't seem to add up, since the reporter noted that there were no nearby pylons located near the surge point. Something was up. He decided to let the others know. This was just the start of it all. Goku had been feeling a little off lately as well, but he really didn't have a clue as to why he was feeling under the weather. He guessed as best he could that maybe this had something to do with Saiyan aging that he had heard about. Maybe he was getting older and Saiyans aged quicker than humans, but no, that didn't make any sense for them to age that fast when Goku was only in his late 20s. And besides, Nappa looked much older than him when they last fought, able to give him a lot of grief. He must have been about, what, like late 40s, early 50s? No, it had to be something else. Maybe, okay, it was just an ordinary flu that had finally gotten around to infecting him. Yeah, that must be it. But just then, a phone call from Krillin arrived, which put Goku into alert mode and putting his cold firmly at the back of his mind. After the friends met and they found Piccolo, they also took Tenshinhan to investigate the disturbances, since Yamcha was busy sharing his time between his family and his baseball career. They didn't wish to interrupt, but their suspicions were correct. This was no regular outage or utility issue. Much to their dread, our heroes had noticed smoke towering over North City, which made them feel uneasy. It looked like there had been a major attack, but they hadn't sensed anything beforehand to alert them about this. Looks like some bad guy tried to cause some trouble, huh? It's been a while, muttered Krillin. After a moment, they saw the source of this entire ruckus. There were two of them, who had been just casually standing around in the middle of a road, firing bursts of light from their hands. It looked like an old man and a clown. How could these two be the source of all this calamity? And again, how did they not sense their presence before getting visual on them? When their eyes met, the geezers seemed amused.
Well, Son Goku, this was unexpected. After so many years searching for you, you made the effort to just turn up at my feet. I am pleasantly surprised that I won't be needing to perform any more wild goose chases. You saved me the bother, and I don't like being bothered.
Goku tilted his head, completely clueless as to the identity of this attacker, despite him wearing the attire of the organization that he had definitely run into ages ago. Do I know you? I noticed your clothing, and I'm pretty sure I defeated most of those Red Ribbon Army guys. Did I miss some of them then?
The man glared at the Saiyan. Not everyone, but I knew them. One especially.
He closed his eyes with a somber slowness before resuming his death stare.
My name is Dr. Giro, and this is Android 19, and we will make you pay for what you did. 19, get him.
The others were pretty sure that Goku had this under control. After all, it wasn't exuding power that was troubling them, but it wasn't exuding any power. After some fighting that had gone down, this thing was scarily powerful for something that was created on Earth without them knowing. But at the end of the day, Goku was not from Earth, and he still had Super Saiyan, so he'd be fine. Yeah. Sure enough, from our hero's perspective, it was starting to look promising for them, especially when the warrior decided to skip the initial phase of the fight and trying to source things and, understand his opponent. But then something caught Piccolo's eye, something that was worrying him greatly, before he then alerted the others to it. Is Goku breathing more heavily than usual? He can't be that tired already. He hadn't even launched any big ki attacks. Then it became very clear to all of them that the android was getting pretty heavy hits on Goku. The tide was turning, and the Saiyan was now on the back foot. For now, Piccolo, Krillin and Tenshinhan chose to merely observe the doctor in case he tried anything funny, who was then boasting about following their fights with his army of bug drones that he had been waiting in the shadows for so long, studying their abilities and ventures in order to ascertain the most effective way of ending them. He was starting to see that all of his research and experiments were providing compelling results, but he had no idea that there was another more biological factor that was indirectly helping him. Goku at this point had had enough of this encounter and decided to end the android with an angry Kamehameha. To his surprise, the android simply absorbed it, having stretched his arms out to literally catch it and then suck it up into his hands like a vacuum cleaner. And after that, the fight got even worse for Goku. The android was beginning to really lay down the law on Goku. He hadn't simply negated that attack. He was now using the power of that Kamehameha against the person who had made it. Krillin had to throw Goku a senzu. There was no other option. But when Goku took it and had ingested it, it had no effect. Usually that stuff works in an instant, but it was proving to be an absolute dud this time around, when they needed it most. As the android was beating Goku even further into the dirt, the three fighters had to intervene. They couldn't do any more the tried and tested act of standing around and doing nothing any longer. Jiro was doing that for them. Him enjoying this revenge and the fact that it was working so well for him with minimal effort. Krillin was then able to grab Goku from 19's clutches and use instant transmission to get into Bulma right away. Now at this point, Jiro could have stopped him from doing that, but the doctor could then identify that Goku was heading toward the brink of death anyway. He had gotten his fill of vengeance for the moment, and hey, at this rate, Goku would succumb to his injuries in mere minutes, he thought. Jiro? Heart virus? That ain't your W. Meanwhile, this meant that Tenshinhan and Piccolo were the ones left to deal with the super-powered 19. They knew they had to keep this thing at a distance from them. Tenshinhan then used the multiform technique, hoping it could confuse the android into submission, but the sensors on board him could still fill out the Triclops, thusly rendering the technique useless. Piccolo knew what he had to do. In order to defeat 19, they had to remove his arms so it couldn't grab onto any more energy. But the problem was that he was able to take most of their attacks. And while they weren't exactly losing, they weren't winning either. All they were doing was delaying the inevitable truth that they would tire out, reaching their limit, and it wouldn't. Piccolo then called telepathically for Krillin, who returned to the fight, leaving Goku to be examined by Bulma and her father. In the meantime, Piccolo and Tenshinhan lured the android with some ki blasts, allowing Krillin to make a sneak attack and cast a Kienzan that cut off 19's hands. It had worked! Jiro was actually surprised by this. He had anticipated some level of defiance from Son Goku, but these three were proving to be abnormally stronger than they should have been based on his information and calculations. But of course, he had no idea of the majority of the Ardratian training, Jiro and 19. So at least our heroes had some kind of advantage going for them right now. After that, the three of them then started to go down on 19, stop it, with their strongest attacks. Then, chip by chip, these attacks blew the monster into pieces. This wasn't an easy fight though. It had taken everything they had got to beat just one of them, and Goku was in no state to rejoin them to help. They had no idea what was wrong with him either. Jiro then decided to fall back, though he was sure that he was able to take those fools down soon, if he had to, especially without Goku there to save them. Piccolo and Tenshinhan took up the chase, after Krillin giving them a senzu. This had worked for them and he, but not for Goku. That was weird. Was it some sort of Saiyan thing? That it was rejecting the beans now? After some tests had been performed, Bulma had found out that the cause of Goku's lack of recovery was down to some sort of virus that had never been seen before on Earth. She scolded the Saiyan for not saying anything about this sooner, but he was hardly in the mood to argue right now. He was burning up. Naturally, someone had to tell Chi-Chi about this. But luckily not all was lost, as Bulma helped Krillin with locating Jiro's lab, giving the others a bone to head toward. As they got closer to Jiro, Piccolo was able to shoot off one of the Doctor's arms with a special beam cannon. And since he wasn't powered up by Goku's energy, this felt far less risky. But the mad scientist did manage to successfully evade them and retreat to his lair. When they got there though, he was talking to some teenagers. Our heroes were confused right now. but they quickly realized that they were another pair of androids. They witnessed Jiro trying to boss them around, but they quickly stole some kind of remote from him and then killed him. Piccolo approached, thinking he could talk them down.
"We've no ill will toward you. We don't need to get in each other's way,"
said Piccolo. "Sorry, green guy. We're planning to have some fun," 17 smirked. And then the two androids quickly charged at them. Our heroes understood that these three, after 16 had been woken up, were much more terrifying and scary than 19 or Jiro combined. They were on a whole other level of power, as our heroes were merely toys for them. Piccolo tried everything, but Android 17 simply grew bored of him, blasting the Mechian away, practically leaving him at death's door. "Oh look, sister, the big green one's perished." Barely alive, Krillin and Tenshinhan managed to get out of there by the skin of their teeth. Meanwhile, Chi-Chi got a phone call from Bulma, learning about Goku's condition. Just about now, Gohan felt something. Not only was his dad sick, but Mr. Piccolo. Before Chi-Chi knew it, Gohan was gone, having used instant transmission to get to the faint energy source of one of his mentors. He watched in horror as some punk was kicking Piccolo's corpse. Gohan roared in fury that surprised everyone around him. "What's with the kid?" 18 raised her eyebrow. The energy exploded from the little half Saiyan as he started to change, his hair glowing gold. Gohan? Super Saiyan? Well, look, sister. He can change. Gohan charged at 17, furiously attacking him, punching, kicking, throwing ki blasts at a horrific rate. Chi-Chi frantically popped in to witness this and screamed at Gohan, but he wasn't reacting to any of this. He was unloading all of his fury, all of his emotions onto the android, and it did absolutely nothing. 17 smiled. "Not bad, little guy." "My turn." Chi-Chi watched in horror as Android 17 beat her baby to a pulp. When he was thrown down, barely conscious to the ground, 17 was readying a massive ki blast, but Chi-Chi got in the way. 18 eyed the woman. "Enough. We need to leave some playthings for later, brother." "You blasted delinquents! You'll pay for what you did to my son!" 17 grinned. "No, lady. We're gonna have some fun. Also, do me a favor. We don't want to regret sparing you losers today. We've got bigger fish to fry anyway. Namely Goku." Chi-Chi was furious and helpless as those delinquents just left. She got to Krillin, bleeding out on the floor, and took a sensu. "Goku's not in a shape to fight. Piccolo's gone. What are we gonna do now?" "Well, you'll have to wait to find out, as that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now." So what do you folks think? Who's left to defend Earth now from these teenagers? Can Chi-Chi call upon anyone else to aid them in this time of need? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!